It might help to start by looking at Chapter 7 because things are a little bit more complicated in Chapter 13. So in a Chapter 7, the big picture goal is just to erase debts in one fell swoop. The whole process typically takes between 5 and 6 months from the day we file the petition until the day you get your discharge. And then something odd starts to happen. You'll get offers for new credit cards and offers to buy new cars. You might wonder, why on earth would these creditors do this? Well, there are two main reasons. One is found in the bankruptcy code itself. There is a provision that says if you do a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and you get a discharge, you can't do another one again for 8 years and a day, measured from filing date to filing date. Well, what does that mean? It means if you incur new debt, you're not going to be able to use a Chapter 7 bankruptcy to discharge that debt. You're going to have to pay it. So that makes you more attractive to creditors. The second reason is eminently practical. You've just gotten rid of a bunch of debt. That frees up future income to pay on future debts. As a result, creditors will be willing to lend you money and extend credit to you. Now, initially, the interest rates will be a little higher than you would ideally like. The available balances will be a bit lower. There are some steps that you can take to gradually bring the interest rates down, gradually build up the available balances. But you'll also be able to buy a car right out of the gate. Now, again, the interest rate might be a little high, so you might want to hold off on that for a bit and rebuild using a couple of new credit cards. As a result, your credit score will go up. Again, this is generally not intuitive until you think this one through. I get the credit reports for each of my individual clients, and the credit reports I get have a prediction of what your credit score will do after you've done the bankruptcy. And invariably, maybe 1 in 1,000 doesn't have this, but the credit score goes up for those two main reasons. Well, the question had to do with Chapter 13. Why am I doing this in Chapter 7? The reason is it's a bit more complicated in Chapter 13, but we can piggyback on the ideas from Chapter 7. In Chapter 13, you're going to be in a multi-year debt repayment plan that's administered by the bankruptcy court. So you're not going to get a discharge right away the way you do in a Chapter 7. Now, the creditors are going to look at your behavior in the Chapter 13. Are you making your plan payments? Are the creditors getting a decent sort of dividend? And it's usually something on the order of a year after you've been in the Chapter 13 that you'll start getting offers to buy new cars and offers for new credit cards. Although I will say, here in the Los Angeles area, there are creditors who will work with you to buy a car at any time in the Chapter 13. You do have to, of course, get the judge's permission in order to do that. But that's usually a fairly straightforward motion that we can get granted for authority to incur debt. The long and short of it is, in a Chapter 13, you won't have that instantaneous series of offers for cars and credit cards, but eventually that will come. Now, in a Chapter 7, the bankruptcy will stay on the credit reports for 10 years. There's no changing that. But I hope what I've said has convinced you that there's less there than meets the eye. With a Chapter 13, the bankruptcy will stay on the credit reports for 7 years rather than 10. But again, you will be able to get credit and you will be able to get loans. The question is what the terms are. Now, the big picture that people have in their minds is, will I ever be able to buy a house? Yes. Now, I've had Chapter 13 clients who bought houses while they were in the Chapter 13. The key thing here is a down payment. Now, in those cases, the parents helped out. They had a good down payment. And a large down payment will cover a multitude of financial sins because now the creditor sees you've got a little skin in the game and there's equity so that if you default, then the creditor can come and foreclose on the property and still get money out of it. So it's a little bit complicated. Does it render you like Bill Gates? No. When you're in bankruptcy, your credit is not going to be perfect, but it's not as bad as many people think it is. And so, yes, you will be able to get credit. You will be able to get loans.